confronts you, whether it is the bones, the muscle, the nerves, the veins, the arteries, whatever confronts you, whatever is the alignment is called anatomy. There are 206 bones in the human body. The study of bones is known as osteology. Okay, there are only 20 that I'm expecting you to know. I'll just show you that PowerPoint slide. One second. This is the human skeletal. If you will see over here, this is the skull. The jawbone is called the mandible. This is the most happening bone when a lot of activity happens. So this is known as the sternum. These are the ribs. This flat bone here is called the collarbone or the clavicle. Okay. Coming from behind, there are two triangular bones. These are called the shoulder blade bone or the scapula. From the base of the skull till the upper border of the pelvis, we have the vertebral column, which is vertical. The vertebral column, which is vertical. Okay. And this circle on which we are each sitting down upon is called the pelvic girdle or pelvis. Okay, which is made up of the right and the left hip bone and the sacrum from behind. Okay, I'm repeating once again: skull, mandible, sternum, ribs, clavicle, okay, scapula, vertebral column, and the pelvis. And all the parts that I just mentioned make up the axial skeletal. AXIAL, axial skeletal. Now, what is left? The two hands and the two legs, which are called the upper limbs and the lower limbs. So, these four make up the appendicular skeletal. I'll just put up the spelling for you. Axial skeletal and appendicular skeletal. Okay. Now, can you tell me what is where? Can somebody please repeat? The bones. AXIAL, axial skeletal, and the other one is appendicular skeleton. Understood? So axial skeletal includes the skull, the mandible, the clavicle, the sternum, the ribs, the scapula, the vertebral column, and pelvis. And appendicular skeletal includes the two hands and the two legs. I'll just show you one video where I have the skeletal dummy showing all the parts. मेरे सारे डेमो वीडियोस yes, one second.
তোমরা যত তাড়াতাড়ি পারো দিয়ে দাও।
And six human bones. There are around 20 bones. Can you see in here? So this is the human skeletal, and I'm describing each part. Okay. We need to know. This is the skull. This is mandible. This is the collarbone, which is also known as the clavicle. These are the ribs which form the rib cage. This bone in the center, very important bone, is called the sternum, and the lowermost part of the sternum is called the xiphoid process. If I come from behind, starting from below the skull and ending till here in the hip bone, this is the entire vertebral column. This entire circle is called the pelvic girdle or the pelvis, which is made up of three bones primarily. This happens to be the right and the left hip bone and the sacrum behind. It forms a whole circle. This is on which we sit down upon. The lowermost part of the circle is called the coccyx, which is also the tailbone. And when we had tails, our tails came from here. Coming on to the upper lip, the arm bone is called humerus. We have two long bones here in the forearm, which is called the radius and the ulna. These are together called the metacarpals, carpals, and the phalanges. Similarly, when I come to the leg, this long bone of the thigh is the femur. These two are the tibia and the fibula, tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. Okay, so these are the two parts which I had to tell you. In the hand, you have humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges. And in the leg, you have FFTT, femur, fibula, tibia, tarsal, metatarsal, and phalanges. Okay. Take 2 minutes and learn these names, and then we'll move forward. Okay.
Please write this in chat box.
These are little difficult terms. So let two, three boys say it before we actually move forward. Tell me when you're done and you're ready to repeat. Do you want a
Please
screen?
write in chat box this name.
These names? Okay, all the names?
With FFTT.
FFTT only, na? Achha. Okay, FFTT. What is that? Femur, fibula, tibia, tarsal, metatarsal, and phalanges. Okay. Tell me once you're done with the learning. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, done. Who's telling me? Tell me. Nobody? Should I take names then? Okay, Vishnu, can you tell me about the bones now? Number 76, Vishnu.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can you tell me about the bones now, please? I want you to go from head to toe.
Skull,
Okay.
uh,
Mandible.
bo-
Mandible. Okay, then come down. Skull, mandible, clavicle, sternum, ribs, scapula, vertebral column, pelvis, axial skeleton, the two hands and the two legs, humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges, femur, fibula, tibia, tarsal, metatarsal, and phalanges. Do I play that video once more? Yes. Should I play that video once more, or is
Yes,
it clear?
ma'am, please play.
Please play. We only have to human bones. There are around 20 bones which we need to know. This is the skull. This is mandible. This is the collarbone, which is also known as the clavicle. These are the ribs which form the rib cage. This bone in the center, very important bone, is called the sternum, and the lowermost part of the sternum is called the xiphoid process. If I come from behind, starting from below the skull and ending till here in the hip bone, this is the entire vertebral column. This entire circle is called the pelvic girdle. or the pelvis, which is made up of three bones primarily. This happens to be the right and the left hip bone and the sacrum behind. It forms a whole circle. This is on which we sit down upon. The lowermost part of the circle is called the coccyx, which is also the tailbone. And when we had tails, our tails came from here. Coming on to the upper lip, the arm bone is called humerus. We have two long bones here in the forearm, which is called the radius and the ulna. These are together called the metacarpals, carpals, and the phalanges. Similarly, when I come to the leg, this long bone of the thigh is the femur. These two are the tibia and the fibula, tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. We only have to know these 20 bones. 106 human bones, there are around 20 bones which we need to know. Yes. This is the skull, this is mandible, this is the collarbone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, who's going to tell me now?
Ma'am, from the above, first is mandible,
Okay,
and then second we come down, then ribs,
okay,
and then sternum,
okay,
and then vertical column,
okay.
and then pelvic girdle,
Hmm.
and girdle,
clavicle,
Okay. Then scapula, vertebral column, pelvis. That is over.
yes,
Then
ma'am.
for the hand and the legs. Yes, for the hand and the legs. Humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, phalanges. Just like that for the leg. Femur, fibula, tibia, tarsal, metatarsal, and phalanges. Yes, should I move forward now?
Yes, ma'am.
This is done. Okay, I want one more person to repeat before I do that actually. Yes, Rushabh Kopre, number 77 TNOC.
yes, ma'am.
Can you
Skull,
repeat? Yes,
skull, mandible,
good.
clavicle, ribs.
Yes.
Then on hand we have humerus, ulna, radius,
Hmm.
carpal, metacarpal, phalanges.
Okay.
Uh, then pelvic girdle,
Hmm.
uh, fibula, tibia,
Hmm.
fibula,
Hmm. Hmm.
tarsal, metatarsal, phalanges.
Correct. Okay, fine. Now the next picture is about the muscles of the human body. Here I'm not being very particular that you have to tell me the exact technical names, but a little bit here and there will also work up. So if you can see this, you can take a screenshot if need be. This is frontalis over here, these two small muscles here. This neck muscle is called trapezius. Here was where you got your COVID-19 injection, which is in the deltoid muscle. Okay? Then down here, you have the biceps and the triceps, dole shole. Okay? Coming in front, this is the pectoralis major or the chest muscle. These are Salman Khan 10 pack abdominal muscles. In the back, they are called the dorsal muscle. The hip muscle, the technical name is gluteus maximus. In front of the thigh, anterior compartment, since there are four muscles comprising, so it is known as quadriceps. Behind, this combination is called the hamstrings, and the main muscle which is forming the calf muscle is called the gastrocnemius. These are the muscles, the important muscles of the human body. Listen carefully and then I'll give you time to learn it up. This is frontalis, trapezius, deltoid, biceps and triceps, pectoralis major, abdominal muscles, dorsal muscles, quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, gastrocnemius, and done. You can take a screenshot and go through it. Yes, who's telling me? Anybody? Because if you don't learn it up now, it's going to be very difficult later on. Is anybody telling me or should I move forward? Fine, since I don't get a response, I'll move forward. Okay. Also, what is important is about the muscular system. Uh, it has two types of muscles: voluntary muscles and involuntary muscles. Voluntary muscles are the muscles which listen to you and follow your command, and involuntary muscles are those which do not listen to your command. Say, if you ask your your neck to move, will it move? If you ask your hand to raise up, will it raise? Yes. But if you ask a stomach muscle to dance, will it dance? No. For Baba Ramdev it might, but not for normal people like us. So whatever is inside, say, muscles of the stomach, the intestine, the blood vessels, these are all called the involuntary muscles, and whatever is outside is called the voluntary muscles. Okay. Now I'll move on to the next system, which is very important, which is called the circulatory system. In circulatory system, the heart is divided into four chambers. The upper two are called the anybody atria, and the lower two are called the ventricle. And they are again divided into the right and the left side. So as a resultant, we have a total of four chambers which are present. Right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. Normal blood
Atrium.
pressure. Yes,
Atrium.
atrium, Atrium,
Atrium and ventricle.
atrium and ventricle, right and left. Okay. Normal blood pressure is 120 by 80 millimeters of mercury, and the pulse rate ranges between 60 to 90 beats per minute. We have already seen it. Now, what happens is this is the entire heart lung circulation that I am going to discuss with you, which you must listen to me carefully. Okay. The left side of the two chambers, that is the left atrium and the left ventricle, are concerned with deoxygenated blood. Sorry, a little bit of mess up. The right side is with the deoxygenated blood and the left side is with the oxygenated blood. I'm just sending you a picture in the group. Look at the picture and correlate with what I am saying. Okay? Just give me 1 second. You're all there in the WhatsApp group, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Gee, little girl. There is one simple diagram which I have drawn. So first you have a look at that, and after you, it's a schematic diagram. And after this is done, then I'll send you the other one. Now, if you will just zoom onto this picture that I have sent you, the right atrium is my starting point. Okay. Now, from right atrium, blood goes into the right ventricle, and that is via a valve. The name of the valve is tricuspid valve. Now, what is important for you to know is these valves are like doors with one side hinges. एट्रियम से वेंट्रिकल तो ब्लड जाएगा, लेकिन वेंट्रिकल से वापस एट्रियम में ब्लड नहीं जाएगा. And if it goes, then there is a problem. You will have to do a surgical correction for that valve. So from right atrium via the tricuspid valve. Why is it called so? Because there are three leaves to it, three cusps to it. Blood reaches the right ventricle. Now this is deoxygenated blood. There is another rule that I want you to know is anywhere in the body, arteries carry pure blood and veins carry impure blood. And the only exception to the rule is pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. There is a reversal of role there. So over here, if you will see, it is deoxygenated blood, which ideally a vein should carry. But since pulmonary are a exception, so from the pulmonary artery, blood reaches the lung and reaches for purification. Now, in the lungs, at the microalveolar level, at the alveolar level, purification happens and the deoxygenated blood becomes oxygenated. Now, it is time for this blood to reach the heart again. And how will it do that? The channel is called pulmonary vein. Now blood reaches the left atrium. It is ready to be distributed to the entire body for circulation. So from left atrium, it will go to the left ventricle via the bicuspid, or the other name is the mitral valve. I am expecting you to have a question from one of these valves, so I am emphasizing on them. Now that the blood is present in the left ventricle, it is ready and it can be circulated in the entire body. So it will exit out through the aorta. Okay, and there is again another valve which is known as the aortic semilunar valve. Now, this exit out from the aorta. Aorta will split into arterioles. Arterioles will further split into smaller arteries and again enter into the microcirculation, which is at the capillary level. Now the use up begins. Oxygenated blood becomes used up at the capillary level, and what remains now is again deoxygenated, so we'll begin the journey again from the heart to the lung for purification. And so how will it join back? Rasta वापस जुड़ेगा. The capillaries will unite to form veins. Several veins will come together to form venules, and all of that will drain into a common vena cava, which is known as the anterior vena cava for the upper part of the body and posterior vena cava for the lower part of the body. And there it again enters into the right atrium where we all began our story. Is this clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, but in the picture you, I think, named incorrectly, ma'am.
Where?
Ma'am, in the left side you write the right atrium, and the right side you wrote left atrium. Why?
It is opposite when you are writing down, right? When I am looking the, okay, you want to change side, it's all right, but this is the way it is. From the right atrium, right ventricle, you will have the pulmonary artery, and entering into the left atrium, you will have the pulmonary vein. So these points, all you have to, if you want to change sides, you can change sides, but this way it makes more sense. I'll
Okay.
send you another picture. Wait, that is
No, ma'am. No problem.
no, there's no problem. It is correct. I know, but there is one more thing I want to. This is one of your students has sent me. I sent him this diagram and he drew this out of that and he gave me. Actually, very appreciable imagination and he understood it quite well. Wait 1 second, I'll just send you. See, all that I told you, he added on to that. Now see this diagram. So it's starting with the right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle. From right ventricle, there is another semilunar valve. Pulmonary artery reaches the lung. Pulmonary veins reaches the left atrium, bicuspid valve. Exit out through the left ventricle. Aorta, arterioles, artery, capillary, venules, vena cava, and back again to the right atrium. I want you all to draw this diagram and send it to me. You can send it in the group. I can write your name and send it in this group itself so that I can make the corrections.
Then.
Only then I will move forward, because only if you understand so much, I can show you the videos for this, because only then it makes sense. Okay, I want everybody to draw pictures and send it in this group. Send me so that we can move forward. The earlier you're done with it, the better it is.
ऐसे बना ऐसा ऐसा आर एल आर एल ट्रिपल ट्रिपल आर्टरी ये ना आर्टरी नो इंटीरियर राइट आर्टरी आर्टरी हाँ यहाँ से
I can't see any pictures coming in the group.
ड्राइंग मैम
Yeah, but did you get the concept? Yes? Do you want me to repeat, anybody? Or are you clear? Got it. Very good.
generated blood treason ऐसा है सही सा है ठीक है राइट से जाएगा lungs lungs here purify okay यहाँ से input output oxygen blood input oxygen blood output oxygen आया oxygen गया no
Okay, pictures started coming in. Who is this Jeet? Jeet, you will have to mention the vessels. अभी राइट एट्री राइट वेंट्रिकल में जो आउटपुट लिखा है आपको वहाँ पे पल्मोनरी आर्टरी लिखना पड़ेगा, इनपुट में पल्मोनरी वेन लिखना पड़ेगा, लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल के बाहर आयोटा लिखना पड़ेगा और इधर लेबलिंग करो। जीत
मैम मैंने दूसरा ड्रॉ किया
भेज देना।
भेज दिया मैम आई हैव सेंड इट
दिस इज वेदांत।
यस मैम
एट्रियम का स्पेलिंग ATRIUM है वेदांत, एक तरफ राइट लिखा है लेफ्ट साइड रॉन्ग लिखा है।
सॉरी मैम
ओके राइट, वेदांत का राइट है।
यस मैम
How about the others? I have 24 boys in the class. Actually, all this is a lot of new information and it is a little difficult. That is why I am pausing, waiting for you to grasp. do some form of writing so that it stays and you can get the concepts better.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can just tell in a jiffy and move forward. Very easy for me.
Wow.
It's Varun now. Okay, it's right, Varun. In the meantime, I can have that Jeet, who's the one who was going to present, right? Jeet, you can just
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
line up the arrangement. We
Okay,
will have
ma'am.
3 4 videos. One is explaining the entire circulation. One is describing about the heart. There is one about the arteries and the veins and cholesterol. Okay, they've gone on to explain the difference between arteries and veins. One difference is, as I told you, arteries carry pure blood, veins carry impure blood. The second difference is arteries are thick walled. उनकी जो it's like a pipeline, right? So the lumen is lumen is probably the same, but the thickness of the wall is more for the artery. The veins are comparatively thinner walled. And the third point of difference is there are valves which are present in the veins which are absent in the arteries. So these are the 3 differences. Yes, I have got one more, 4 more pictures. Okay, Vishnu. Yeah, Vishnu.
Hello,
Hello,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, tell me.
I'm
I'm
logged
logged
into it.
into it.
Okay, now open the cardio body structure का heading है उसमें cardiovascular system खोलो.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, click on, there are videos, there are 5 videos in that section. Show me one after the other.
In the following media, you will learn about the heart. The heart is placed in the chest cavity. The lower portion of the heart is tilted slightly towards the left. The size of the heart is about the size of a fist. Closing your fingers in the direction of your palm will create a fist. The heart is divided into 4 chambers. Upper 2 chambers are termed as atria, which is called the atrium. The lower 2 chambers are called the ventricles. In the heart, circulation of blood starts from its right side. The blood is transported from the heart to the lungs
Yes,
and
what is
flows
happening?
back into the heart.
I'm
I'm
sharing,
sharing,
but
The
but
heart
sound is
pumps
not
this
coming.
blood to other parts of the body.
Right, sir?
now I'll
Now I'll
try
try
to
Thus,
to
you
share
have
share
again.
learned
again.
about the heart.
Okay. I want one of you, the other boys also to try. Sometime, maybe if he's not able to do it, you all can do it. Anyway, you will have to do it and see it. Vedant, Santosh, Varun, Panwar, Rushabh, you all can try. And 4 5 boys are missing from the class. If he's double, that means 4 boys are missing.
The lower 2 chambers are called the ventricles. In the heart, circulation of blood starts from its right side. In the following media, you will learn about the heart.
Okay.
The heart. In the following media, you will learn about the heart. The heart is placed in the chest cavity. The lower portion of the heart is tilted slightly towards the left.
We can hear you, but we cannot see you.
The size of the heart is about the size of a
Correct.
fist.
This is a video I want you to play.
And should
Then
I
should I
play it
play it
from
from
beginning?
beginning?
Yeah, but we cannot see you. Boys, can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then why am I not able to see? Should I
And
leave
And
the
what
poll?
and
what
what
are you
are you
unable to
unable to
see the
see the
video
video
or
or
The video.
something else?
Video. I
I'm
I am
can see.
presenting it?
presenting it.
No, you are presenting, but I cannot see. Wait, I'll leave the call and join. You start playing the video from the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
I can see
In
now.
the following media, you will learn about the heart. The heart is placed in the chest cavity. The lower portion of the heart is tilted slightly towards the left. The size of the heart is about the size of a fist.
Very important. That's the size.
Closing your fingers in the direction of your palm will create a fist. The heart is divided into 4 chambers. The upper 2 chambers are termed as atria, which is called the atrium. The lower 2 chambers are called the ventricles. In the heart, circulation of blood starts from its right side. The blood is transported from the heart to the lungs and flows back into the heart. The heart pumps this blood to other parts of the body. Thus, we have learned about the heart.
Ma'am, over.
Next video. Yes, the cardiac cycle.
The human heartbeat occurs in 3 steps. In the first step, diastole occurs. Here, both the atria and the ventricles are in a relaxed mode. During atrial systole, the ventricles are relaxed. And during ventricular systole, the atria are relaxed. During diastole, the blood flows passively into the atria. Initially, the atrioventricular valves are closed. But as the atrial blood pressure increases, the valves are forced to open and blood flows into the ventricles. The semilunar valves remain closed during this phase. In the second step, or atrial systole, the atria contract simultaneously and force more blood into the ventricles. The third step, ventricular systole, begins as soon as the ventricles start to contract, causing an increase in blood pressure. When the blood pressure increases in the ventricles, the semilunar valves are forced to open, the atrioventricular valves snap shut, and the atria begin to relax and refill with blood. As the ventricles continue to contract, causing the blood pressure to increase even more, the blood is pushed into the aorta and the pulmonary arteries. From here, the blood flows into the other vessels. The ventricles now relax, causing a decrease in pressure, which allows the semilunar valves to close. Another diastole will now begin, and once again, the heart starts pumping blood. The heartbeat occurs about 72 times per minute.
Yeah, play this.
A specialized cell located in the right atrium near the superior vena cava is called the sinoatrial node. A small mass of tissue situated in the wall of the atrial septum is called atrioventricular node. At the upper end of the ventricular space, the AV node is separated as right and left atrioventricular bundle branches. Each bundle branches have the breakup into fine fibers called the Purkinje fibers. It will take 0.1 seconds for receiving impulse
So the
from
pacemaker
SA
is
node
SA
to
node.
AV node. In the meantime, it finishes the contraction of atria. The AV node conveys the electrical impulse to the apex of the myocardium via the bundle branches and the Purkinje fibers. The blood is pumped out of the ventricles when the wave of ventricular contraction begins. In the following media, you will learn about the arteries. The blood vessels have 2 main types. The lungs are packed with a rich supply of oxygen when you inhale fresh air. Oxygen is distributed all over the body from the heart. The blood carries carbon dioxide and other waste materials to the heart. In order to remove the carbon dioxide from the body, the heart carries it to the lungs. One type of blood vessel is called the artery. It carries blood away from the heart and distributes to the rest of the body. The arteries are made of thick elastic wall in order to support the rapid flow of blood at high pressure. The flow of blood through the arteries can be studied by performing an activity. By holding your left wrist with the index and middle fingers placed on it, throbbing movement is felt. A pulse is defined by these throbbing movements. The movement of blood into the arteries generates the pulse. The number of pulses in the arteries per minute is called pulse rate. The pulse rate for a resting person is between 72 and 80 pulses per minute. There are other places in our body that exhibit a pulse. Thus, you have learned about the arteries.
Next is a video on veins and then cholesterol, and that section is over there.
In the following video, you will learn about veins. Veins are another type of blood vessel. They are thin-walled with a large lumen which permits the passive flow of blood towards the heart. They usually transport deoxygenated blood to the heart. The blood can only flow in one direction due to the presence of valves that help prevent backflow when closed. The pulmonary veins are exceptions as they carry oxygen-rich blood to the heart. Veins help the blood flow through tissues. The veins originate at the sites of capillary beds. They return the blood into the heart. Thus, you have learned about veins. Cholesterol is a natural substance found in foods, and it is created by our body to help build and maintain ourselves. Too much of cholesterol can lead to major problems like heart attacks and stroke. This happens when the amount of cholesterol in our diet plus the natural cholesterol made up inside the body add up and the total level goes too high. Our body naturally makes cholesterol in the liver, and the body also gets cholesterol from the food we eat. This cholesterol gets digested in the stomach and moves to the small intestine and then enters the blood. When there is too much of cholesterol in the blood, deposits constructive form inside the arteries. This is a serious problem because over time those deposits can grow and restrict the flow of blood to the vital organs. A blocked artery in the heart causes heart attack, and a block in the brain causes stroke. It can be prevented, controlled, and reversed by changing the lifestyle pattern, diet, and medical prescription.
You take a break now. Keep on logged in, Jeet. We'll need it after the break also.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah, we'll just join back.